This is all about another way for you to take charge of your own health. The coMra wellness test, to start to dial in a new way or in a more comprehensive way for you perhaps, to your body's state of wellness. And this is directly related to your state of being. In all the things we do, everything is aimed at helping people help themselves. And a big part of this is to put yourself in the picture. So by putting yourself in the picture, you can now take more active role in your own health, in the care of your family, and these kind of things. And if you look at this with coMra therapy, for instance, we provided a tool to bridge that gap so people can take a lot more action in terms of treating themselves than they may have thought possible before. And now with this tool, this self-test, the wellness test, what happens is now you have a tool that you can assess where you're at. And we're going to get into why this assessment is so important. The coMra wellness test is based on the scientific research of Professor Garkavi and her team. We use this method. You can use this method to reflect your current state of wellness now, as I was just talking about. Professor Garkavi and her team, they realized there's not just one, there's multiple ways the body adapts to a broken bone or cancer or an infection. They did thousands of experiments, firstly on animals, and then after that, they did thousands of experiments with people to prove this out. Now, was really complicated, in-depth medical science where they measure weight of an organ, and when the organ's under stress, they watch it like a thyroid shrink in size and weight, whereas the adrenal glands are working overtime and the nervous system is doing this. So they did all kinds of blood tests, organ-specific tests, uh, and so many detailed physiological tests to start to map out these different categories. So when you look at the Garkavi questionnaire rationale, they took decades of research and demonstrated the fact that the state of your body's wellness is fixed to your state of being, and then map that out physiologically. And this is why we're putting this out here today as part of our vision, so that you have this tool that you can create a healing environment in your body. Or if you're already healthy and everything's going well in your life, you want to age gracefully. This is part of that anti-aging. Because if you think about it, that type of stress, it wears the body down. Whereas when we're able to adapt and handle those stressors from our environment, when we adapt to those and overcome them, this adds vitality to ourselves, to our lives, okay? So they established all of these responses in the body. They mapped this out. Doesn't mean that it's a complete list, but it's much further than anybody else has taken it. It's very amazing, actually. But what they discovered through that process, of interviewing thousands of people and doing all the physiology tests, she would ask them questions as well. She's a medical doctor and ask them questions. And she started to map patterns. They're like, wow, anybody in a stress state, their emotional responses and how they are doing things and their sleep and appetite, they're all the same. Physiologically, she discovered I can ask a series of simple questions and there's a 94% correspondence. That means there's only a 6% difference in what they would measure in a blood test between that and what they could measure by asking a simple questionnaire. And this is the exact thing that this questionnaire is. So think about that. You can now do this test for yourself and get an idea of this space your body's in order to make the changes. That 40 years of research has culminated in being able to look at very complex physiology in a very simple way that's accessible to everyone. I mean, this is really mind-blowing. The psychology and the physiology are exactly correlated here. This is amazing. And that was what she happened on and what changed things so dramatically in the research. And then the other part of taking Hans Selye's work into the stratosphere, it's really a huge breakthrough. But I mean, what makes this test unique is usually there's a department, you go over to the foot doctor, you go to the eye doctor, you go to the brain doctor, you go to all these different separate places to get physiological testing. Or you go to the psychologist or you go to the counselor and you get this psychological testing, and they're all done separately. But this is really a holistic test which incorporates the whole, okay? Because remember what I said at the beginning, they're inextricably linked. And so best we work with them as a whole because we're whole people. What I would recommend, take it for fun at first, but then ponder on what the results are. And if you take it over time, you can use it in a much more structured way. Don't deliberate too much. Just go with your gut feel, okay? We use the word work because in English, that was really the word that summarized a number of things in Russian. It's not necessarily to do with what your job or your career, it's what you do in your daily life. Don't get too hooked up on any tests, even this one. It's nice, but it's not the end all be all. It's just another tool to help you. So, in other words, if I get into this, can I pass or fail the test? I can start relinquishing my autonomy and my, let's say, sovereignty and start putting the power outside of myself. But this is a support tool. So thankfully, we can't fail this test.